In 1955, one of the smartest men in human history was dying in a hospital bed. Before taking his final breath, he spoke a few words in German. But there was one problem. The nurse beside him did not understand German. Albert Einstein's last words were lost forever. No one knows what he said. And perhaps that is the perfect ending for a man who spent his entire life trying to uncover the greatest mysteries of the universe. But the truth is that Einstein's story is far more astonishing than most people realize. Because before he became one of the greatest geniuses of all time, he was simply a boy many considered strange, troublesome, and unlikely to succeed. When Albert Einstein was born in 1879 in the city of Ulm, Germany, his parents were worried. His development seemed slower than that of other children. Some accounts suggest that he spoke later than expected. In an era when intelligence was often judged by early childhood behavior, this caused concern. Yet no one could have imagined that this quiet boy would one day completely transform humanity's understanding of reality. From an early age, Albert seemed to live inside his own mind. While other children played, he spent hours observing simple phenomena that most people ignored. Everything changed when his father showed him a compass. It may sound like a small moment, but for young Einstein, it was shocking. The needle always pointed in the same direction. Even though nothing visible appeared to be pushing it, he was fascinated. There were invisible forces operating in the world. Something was happening beyond what the eyes could see. Decades later, Einstein would still remember that moment. Perhaps that was when his obsession with understanding the hidden secrets of the universe truly began. But school did not seem to recognize his potential. Quite the opposite. Einstein hated the rigid educational system of his time. Teachers demanded memorization. He wanted understanding. Teachers wanted obedience. He asked questions. Teachers wanted accepted answers. He questioned everything. At one point, a teacher reportedly told him that he would never amount to anything significant. Imagine that. The man who would revolutionize physics being considered a failure by his own educators. But there is a powerful lesson hidden here. Geniuses rarely look like geniuses when they are just beginning. Often, they simply appear to be people who see the world differently. And Einstein definitely saw the world differently. While other young people worried about ordinary concerns, he spent hours imagining impossible scenarios. One of those thoughts would change history forever. He asked himself, what would happen if I could run alongside a beam of light? It sounds like a childish question, but that single question would trigger one of the greatest scientific revolutions of all time. Meanwhile, his practical life was far from successful. After finishing his studies, Einstein struggled to find work. Universities showed little interest in him. Laboratories refused to hire him. Institutions saw no brilliant future ahead. For a period of time, he was unemployed. The man who would transform science could not even find a job. Then, finally, an opportunity appeared. A modest position at the Swiss Patent Office. His job was to evaluate inventions submitted by inventors. It hardly seemed like the kind of career that would produce a scientific legend. Yet it was exactly there that something extraordinary happened. During the day, Einstein reviewed patent applications. At night, he disappeared into his thoughts, and the more he reflected, the more he realized that enormous problems existed within physics. The existing theories could not explain everything. Something was wrong, very wrong. Then came the year that would change his life forever, 1905. Today it is known as his miracle year. In that single year, Einstein published 4 scientific papers that would completely transform humanity's understanding of the universe. 4 papers, in just 12 months. The first helped prove the existence of atoms. The second explained the photoelectric effect. The third introduced the special theory of relativity. And the fourth contained one of the most famous equations in history, EMC2, a simple-looking formula. Yet hidden within it was a monumental truth. Energy and matter were 2 forms of the same reality. Matter could become energy. Energy could become matter. The universe was far stranger than anyone had imagined. But this was only the beginning. While the world struggled to understand his ideas, Einstein was already thinking about something even bigger, something capable of explaining gravity itself. For years he worked obsessively. Every day brought new questions, new calculations, new mistakes, new attempts. It was an intellectual battle unlike anything the scientific world had ever seen. Finally, in 1915, he introduced the general theory of relativity, and what it proposed sounded almost like science fiction. According to Einstein, space and time were not rigid structures. They could bend, warp, stretch. Gravity was not simply a force pulling objects together. Instead, it was the very fabric of space-time being distorted by mass. The idea seemed so outrageous that many scientists were skeptical. But Einstein was convinced. Then came the proof. In 1919, during a solar eclipse, astronomers conducted observations designed to test his theory. The results matched Einstein's predictions. The scientific world exploded with excitement. Almost overnight, Einstein became famous across the globe. Newspapers printed his photograph. Magazines wrote about him. People everywhere wanted to hear his ideas. He became a global celebrity. But success brought new challenges. Europe was entering one of its darkest periods. Extremist movements were rising. Anti-Semitism was growing. And Einstein, being Jewish, became a target. When Adolf Hitler came to power, the situation became dangerous. Einstein understood the threat immediately. He left Germany. It was a decision that likely saved his life, but it also meant leaving behind his homeland. As the world moved closer to war, Einstein watched with growing concern. He believed in peace. He always had. But now he faced a painful dilemma. The Nazis might develop devastating weapons, and that possibility terrified him. So Einstein signed a historic letter to U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The letter warned that Germany might be developing an atomic bomb. That warning helped trigger the Manhattan Project. Years later, atomic bombs would be dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thousands would die, and Einstein would carry a heavy emotional burden. Although he had not directly worked on the bomb itself, his famous equation had helped make the understanding of nuclear energy possible. Many people began associating him with atomic weapons. But the reality was far more complicated. For the rest of his life, Einstein advocated for international control of nuclear weapons and fought passionately for peace. Perhaps because he understood better than almost anyone the danger humanity now possessed. Yet while the world saw him as a near superhuman genius, Einstein remained deeply human. He made mistakes, forgot appointments, lost personal belongings, ignored formalities, had a wonderful sense of humor, loved playing the violin, enjoyed long walks while thinking about impossible problems. He was a man capable of imagining the structure of the cosmos, yet often unable to remember where he had left his own things. That combination made him even more fascinating. As the years passed, his fame only grew. But one question continued to haunt him. He wanted to discover a theory that could unite all the forces of nature. A final theory, a complete explanation of the universe. He spent decades pursuing it. Decades. But he never succeeded. And perhaps there is something profoundly beautiful about that. The man who solved some of humanity's greatest mysteries spent his final years chasing an even greater mystery. Until the very end. Until his last day. Until the final words that no one would ever understand. When Einstein died in 1955, he left behind far more than scientific theories. He left behind a new way of seeing reality. He changed our understanding of space, of time, of energy, of gravity, of the universe itself. But perhaps his greatest legacy is not scientific. Perhaps it is intellectual. Einstein taught us that imagination can be just as powerful as knowledge, that questions are just as important as answers, that curiosity is a force capable of changing the world, because everything began with a boy staring at a compass, with a young man imagining himself racing beside a beam of light, with someone who refused to accept easy explanations. And perhaps that is why, more than half a century after his death, Albert Einstein remains the universal symbol of human genius. Now I want to hear your opinion. Do you believe Einstein was the greatest genius in history, or do you think someone else deserves that title? Leave your answer in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button right now because it helps the channel continue creating amazing content like this. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story may completely change the way you see the world.